Was barely dry on the $16 million contract I just closed in Europe when my phone buzzed with a message from a neighbor back home. Savannah, did you know your car's gone? Saw your brother driving it yesterday. My stomach tightened. My car wasn't just any car, it was the first thing I ever bought after clawing my way out of debt. A symbol. A promise to myself. And now, gone. When I landed back in the States, I drove straight to my parents' house. The moment I walked through the door, I saw it in my mother's eyes, guilt, carefully disguised as authority. He needed it more, she said flatly. You've always had enough. Always had enough. Those words cut deeper than any betrayal before. As if my success erased the years I spent eating instant noodles, working 3 jobs, wearing the same shoes until the soles gave out. As if my victories made me undeserving of respect. My brother stood behind her, smug, arms crossed. He didn't even flinch. To him, my possessions, my effort, my sacrifices, they were all fair game. Because the golden child never had to earn. I looked at them both, every muscle in my body coiled tight, my suitcase still at my feet. And then I spoke. 6 words. That was all it took. Her face fell. My brother's smirk vanished. And the room went silent. My name is Valerie Kane, 31 years old. And if you think the story is about a car, you're wrong. This is about what happens when the family that belittled your worth finally learns that everything comes with a price. The air in the room was heavy, my suitcase still by the door, their eyes burning into me. My mother's chin was lifted high, like she had just performed a noble act. My brother leaned against the wall, smug, waiting for me to explode. Instead, I looked her in the eye and said the 6 words that drained the color from her face. The deal wasn't in my name. Her lips parted. My brother frowned, confusion flickering across his smug grin. I let the silence hang for a moment, then dropped my passport on the table, the embossed logo glinting under the light. Everything you saw online? The $16 million? It wasn't mine. It was secured under the company's name. And do you know what that means? My brother shifted uneasily. What are you talking about? I stepped closer, my voice low, sharp, deliberate. It means I had nothing liquid in my name during that trip. Not a house. Not a car. Not even that vehicle you so generously pawned. Mom's face twisted. You're lying. I pulled out my phone, tapped once, and let the bank statement glow on the screen. Empty accounts. Zeros. Nothing to take. Nothing to steal. You thought you were pawning my car? You pawned collateral tied to a European contract worth more than this entire neighborhood. Her hand flew to her mouth. My brother cursed under his breath. I smiled faintly. So, tell me, when the auditors come knocking, who should I send them to? You? Or him? The room went still. No one breathed. For the first time, they realized I wasn't the one who'd lost something. They were. The next morning, the calls began. Not from my parents, not from my brother, but from the bank. Miss Kane, we're calling regarding collateral listed under your vehicle registration. It seems there was an unauthorized pawn transaction. We'll need clarification immediately. I sipped my coffee, staring out at the skyline from my apartment window. Oh, I'll clarify, I said calmly. But you'll need to speak directly with the parties who pawned it. I wasn't even in the country. The line went quiet. So, you're saying your family acted without your consent? Yes, I replied. And I have documentation to prove it. By noon, 2 auditors were already knocking on my parents' door. I didn't have to be there to see the panic. I had cameras installed years ago, and the footage streamed directly to my phone. My mother's voice, usually so sharp, was trembling. There must be some mistake. It was just a car, my daughter has plenty. The auditor's response was flat, professional, merciless. Ma'am, the car is tied to an international transaction. This isn't just a vehicle, it's contractual property. Do you understand the seriousness of this? My brother stepped in, trying to bluster his way through. Look, we'll pay it back. We'll fix it. She won't press charges. But that's where he was wrong. I hit record on my phone and captured every word. His desperation, his admission, my mother's silence as she realized what they had done. That evening, I walked back into their house, the same room where she told me I'd always had enough. Now, the walls were quiet, the pride drained from their faces. I set my phone on the table, hit play, and let them hear their own downfall. This time, I said softly, the price won't be mine to pay. The recording ended, the room heavy with the sound of their own voices condemning them. My brother slammed his fist against the table. You wouldn't dare turn that over. You'd ruin your own family. I leaned back, calm, deliberate. Family? That word only shows up when you're cornered. Where was family when you pawned what wasn't yours? When you decided I didn't matter because you thought I'd always had enough? Mom's hands trembled as she reached for me, her voice breaking. Valerie, please. We didn't know it was tied to anything bigger. We thought it was just a car. Just a car? I cut her off, my voice sharp enough to slice through the air. That car was collateral, which means the second you signed it away, you signed yourselves into an international fraud investigation. Do you have any idea what they do to people who tamper with contracts of that scale? Dad, who had been silent until now, finally spoke, his voice low and cold. You'll fix this. You have the connections. You have the money. We raised you. We deserve that much. I laughed, bitter and humorless. You didn't raise me. You drained me. And you never saw the difference. For the first time, I saw something flicker in my brother's eyes, fear. He knew this wasn't just about money. It was about power, reputation, freedom. And all of it was slipping through his hands. I stood, collecting my phone, the faint glow of the screen reflecting on their stunned faces. I'll give the auditors everything they need. Every document. Every recording. Every lie you've told. Mom whispered, Valerie, please. But I was already walking to the door. You took what was mine. Now I'll take what you think can never be touched. The next 48 hours moved like a storm. Auditors dug through the paperwork. My brother's signature showed up on the pawn slips, sloppy but undeniable. My mother's name was scrawled beside his, listed as guarantor. They hadn't just touched my property, they had committed fraud in black ink. My phone rang nonstop. Mom, Dad, my brother, calls I ignored. Then came the texts, switching from desperate to venomous in a heartbeat. Don't do this, Valerie. We're blood. If you give them that recording, you'll regret it. You've always been selfish. Selfish. That word nearly made me laugh. Where was their outrage when I was living out of my car at 22, scraping change to eat, while every extra dollar in the family went into my brother's business ventures? Where was family then? By noon, I sat across from the auditors in their downtown office. I slid my phone across the polished table and hit play. Their eyes sharpened as my brother's voice filled the room. Look, we'll pay it back. She won't press charges. One of the auditors leaned back, folding his hands. Thank you, Ms. Kane. This will accelerate the process. They can't wriggle out of this now. When I left, my phone buzzed again. This time it was my sister-in-law. If you ruin him, you ruin all of us. I typed back one line. He ruined himself. I'm just not cleaning it up this time. That night, I poured a glass of wine and stood by my window, watching the city lights shimmer. For years, I had been the safety net they trampled on. Not anymore. I'd given the truth to people who couldn't be bribed, manipulated, or guilted into silence. And tomorrow, the fallout would begin. The headlines came faster than I expected. Local business owner under fraud investigation. Family accused of unauthorized collateral scheme. And right beneath the bold letters was my brother's face. Pale, stiff, his once proud grin replaced with the look of a man cornered. My mother's name appeared too, listed as guarantor. By the afternoon, the phone calls stopped. Not from them. Those kept coming, but from mutual friends, from distant relatives, from business contacts who had once bragged about knowing the Kane family. Their tone had shifted overnight. Valerie, I had no idea. You don't deserve this. Proud of you for standing up to them. For once, the whispers weren't aimed at me. They were aimed at them. When I drove past their house later that day, I noticed the blinds drawn tight, the driveway empty. No cars. No laughter spilling out like it used to during my brother's endless celebrations. Just silence. I parked at the curb and sat for a moment, staring at the house where I'd once felt invisible, where every win I'd earned was dismissed as luck, while my brother's failures were spun as ambition. The front door cracked open. My mother stood there, eyes red, shoulders slumped. She didn't step outside. She just stared at me, lips parting as though she might say something. An apology? A plea? I'll never know, because I started the car and drove away before she could speak. That night, as I walked through my own apartment, I realized something important. Their empire had never been built on love. It was built on appearances, manipulation, and taking whatever wasn't nailed down. And now, piece by piece, it was collapsing. The begging began 3 days later. My phone lit up with a string of messages from Mom, each one more frantic than the last. Valerie, please, you don't understand what this is doing to us. Your brother could lose everything, his business, his marriage. We're your family. Stop this before it's too late. Too late. The phrase made me smirk. Too late was my 23rd birthday, when they left me alone with a grocery store cupcake while they threw a party for my brother's new venture. Too late was every time they told me, "You'll be fine," while funneling everything into him. Too late was pawning my car behind my back. The final voicemail was Dad's voice, gruff but quivering. "Valerie, you've made your point. Don't drag our name through the mud. We can fix this. Just give us the chance." But there was no fixing this. Not anymore. That evening, I attended a gala hosted by the very company I'd secured the $16 million deal for. The CEO raised his glass in my honor, praising my work ethic, my loyalty, my brilliance under pressure. Applause echoed through the ballroom, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as someone's daughter, not as someone's sister, but as me. Meanwhile, across town, my brother's office lights went dark. His business accounts froze. Rumors spread of clients pulling out, creditors circling like vultures. The golden boy was tarnished beyond repair. As I left the gala, standing tall in a dress I'd bought with my own money, I glanced at my silent phone. Another text from Mom glowed on the screen. "Come home. Please. We'll do anything." I slid it back into my clutch without replying. They wanted me to come home, but they had burned that bridge themselves. The night after the gala, I drove back to the lakefront apartment I'd chosen for myself. The city glowed across the water, steady and untouchable. I poured a glass of wine and scrolled through the news again. My brother's downfall had made the front page. His photo, my mother's name, words like fraud and misappropriation. The Kane family image was in ashes. At 10:12 p.m., there was a knock on my door. Not pounding, not demanding, just a weak, hesitant knock. When I opened it, my mother stood there. No pearls, no makeup, just red eyes and shaking hands. "Valerie," she whispered, "we've lost everything. Please stop this." I studied her. The same woman who once told me my achievements meant nothing compared to my brother's. Who had dismissed every milestone in my life as luck. Who pawned my car without a thought. And now here she was begging at my door. I set my wine down and answered with the calm I'd earned. "You told me once I'd always had enough. That was your excuse to take from me. But you were wrong. What I didn't have was respect. And that's something you can't steal." Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Behind her, my brother lingered in the shadows of the hallway, hollow-eyed, shoulders hunched. He couldn't even meet my gaze. I stepped back, placed my hand on the door, and finished softly. "You didn't just lose my car. You lost me." And then I closed the door. The silence afterward wasn't empty. It was freedom. For the first time, I felt lighter, like the chains of their judgment had finally broken. I wasn't their scapegoat, their safety net, their forgotten daughter. I was my own.